What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are almost there. 1.0 for last Epoch. Guys, I can't believe I've been playing this game for 5 years in early access. That is just insane to me. But we're here, we're about to drop, and I figured this would be a really good time to talk about 3 of my favorite starter builds that I typically recommend to people who want to get into last Epoch. These are very strong. They're going to allow you to really kind of start a foundation, get a really good build that's going to allow you to get into empowered monoliths, that way you can start farming gear, and then eventually you can build your own character. Now, the cool thing about all of these different builds is that the baseline masteries that we're choosing aren't weak masteries. So if you get into monoliths or empowered monoliths and you're like, you know what, I want to change things up a little bit, then you can. You can easily swap out of the skills that you have, swap into some different ones, and then pivot your character to something a little bit different. So that's what we're looking at today, 3 of my favorites. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started. The first one we're going to talk about is the Lightning Marksman. So the Lightning Marksman uses the Detonating Arrow skill to quickly tear through groups of enemies by shooting one and then letting that arrow explode and letting lightning tendrils clear out the rest of the enemies. This is very, very good for AoE damage. But the thing is, this build isn't just good for mobbing. It's also great against single targets with the Sucker Punch node. This is going to cause any enemy that currently has a detonating arrow attached to take extra damage for subsequent arrows. Now, this gives the player some really kind of big burst damage to help you get through some of those thicker health bars. The rest of the kit focuses on debuffs and misdirection, using things like decoy to help draw attention and apply armor shred. This helps you get down enemies more quickly and helps keep you alive. Now you pair that with the smoke bomb that does something similar with even more armor shred, and you're looking at a pretty versatile build that helps you clear maps and bosses relatively easily. Please be warned, this build is a slower burn. It does take a while to warm up and kind of get things moving, maybe around level 20. You'll need to unlock lightning tendrils and then find yourself a nice bow and quiver before you really start to see what this setup can do. Now, it doesn't take all the way to like level 55 or 60 or anything like that, so please don't think it's that deep into the game, but it does take a little while. I'd say level 15, 20 is when you'll really start to see this thing pick up and start going. So next, let's talk about what affixes you want to look for on gear. So number 1, make sure to shore up all your defenses and have all your resistances taken care of. Before you get into any sort of damage additions or anything like that, you want to make sure you're not going to die first. So with all of the builds in this video, please make sure to tackle defenses first and then tackle offense. Okay, so let's talk about these. So you want things like bow lightning damage, lightning penetration, and dexterity. You can also look for affixes like ward gained on shift, health leech, and just health in general. You shouldn't be in harm's way too often with this build, but you do want to be prepared for when you are. And then lastly, I put the full build link in the description below. This covers the skill trees, passive tree, and what affixes to look for other than the resistances. So that's the Lightning Marksman. Let's talk about my second favorite, and that's going to be the Fire Barrage Sorcerer. So this is one of my favorite builds. This build does one thing and one thing extremely well. It burns the hell out of everything in its way. The Sorcerer uses the Fireball skill as a main filler, and this is going to apply huge amount of Ignite onto enemies. And then with these Fireballs having a homing effect, it takes aiming out of the equation entirely. Fireball is paired with Firewall, and this is going to create a pretty unique synergy, right? It's going to cause any enemies who travel through your wall to not only take huge amounts of damage, but also proc Fireball casts towards those enemies. So when it comes to like an easy to play build that can handle higher levels of corruption, this one is near the top of my list, and honestly, it's one of the more fun ones to play. I really, really enjoy what this thing brings to the table. So let's talk about affixes. Just like with the last one, make sure your defenses are taken care of, but what you want to look for are fire damage, fire penetration, elemental damage, damage over time, plus to skills like plus to Fireball, plus to Volcanic Orb. You want plus to Ignite, you want health, and you want critical avoidance. And just like the last one, I've put the full build link in the description below that covers the skill trees, the passive tree, and what affixes to look for. The last build I want to talk about is a classic, and it's one that not everybody loves, but I mean, it has a huge following, and that's the Fire Warpath Paladin. So this Holy Fire Paladin focus on self buffs and applying as many stacks of Ignite as possible through Warpath. This allows the build to quickly clear mobs of enemies and really kind of hold its own against bosses in a pretty decent way. Now, it's not going to break any land speed records, right? It is not the fastest build around, but it will definitely get you from point A to point B safely by taking advantage of self-healing, health leech on melee attacks, and stacking resistances while channeling. This makes it a really strong starter build for someone new to the game or just looking to kind of experience Last Epoch without a lot of trouble. So let's talk about the affixes that we're looking for. Just like the other two builds, we're looking for defensive stuff first, and then after that, we're looking for melee fire damage, elemental fire damage, resistances while channeling, health leech, and then this one's big. We want plus to skill of Sigils of Hope, Warpath, Holy Aura, and Smite. And just like the other ones, lastly, you know, I've put the full build link in the description below. It's going to cover everything you guys need to know. So guys, those are my 3 favorite starter builds for Last Epoch 1.0. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. All of these will get you to the empowered monolith and a decent ways in there. Now, I can't guarantee they're going to take you to 600 corruption or anything like that. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. As always, thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.